All right. So it's hot. You can't breathe. Your chest is pounding. Your friends are standing right in front of you, but you can barely hear them. Your vision is blurring and it's becoming worse, and you really just can't do anything about it. What you might experience could potentially be an anxiety or a panic attack. So the title of my presentation is Anxious College Kids, and I'm going to be just talking to you all about just anxiety within college students, and just ways that they cope, unhealthy and healthy ways. And so it kind of goes into Jalen's presentation about anxiety and people of our age and how it can be heightened, and especially since we're in college, we do a lot of different things. Why I actually chose this topic was because I myself suffered from anxiety. This past academic year was probably my worst year for me. Just simple tasks like leaving my room at a decent time, being in large crowds for an extended period of time, and then just getting like adequate sleep at night all seemed like insurmountable tasks that was just hard for me to accomplish. And then also just having friends that I've talked to with anxiety. I actually interviewed two of my friends, and like a lot of the polls I did were like through some of my closest friends. Also being a part of an organization here on campus called Wellness Ambassadors, they just talk about a lot of ways to be healthy, like physical and mental wise. So they gave me a lot of ways to cope and to really like understand like what anxiety is and to myself, and then understand how it looks at others. So what we're going to be discussing today is we're going to just be discussing what anxiety is, what anxiety looks like in us college students, unhealthy ways that people cope, and then like healthy ways of coping. All right, so I like to call anxiety the monster under our bed because it's not real, but at the same time it is, and it haunts us to a certain degree. So let's get started. Anxiety is essentially stress, and stress could range from butterflies on a date to full-on panic attacks. But when it becomes anxiety when it becomes stress that's continual, that stops you from living life to the fullest. So if you find yourself in situations where I don't want to go there because I know I'll get anxious, or I don't want to do this and the third because I know my anxiety will basically prevent me from doing it, that's when you can say you have anxiety. And so you probably all have experienced anxiety in the slightest. Some symptoms, according to Healthline, are excessive worrying, avoiding social interactions, panic attacks, irregular sleep, not being able to concentrate, and then just continual fatigue throughout the day. And with these like common symptoms, it's not a surprise that a third of all U.S. adults and young adults have had an anxiety-related disorder that could honestly be diagnosable, but everybody doesn't go to the doctor every time they're feeling bad. And then now a little statistic that hits closer to home with us college students. A survey conducted by the Association for the University of College Counseling, they found that 41% of college students listed their top concern as anxiety. And so to my next point, knowing that anxiety is a very serious issue among us, let's take a step back and examine what a college student's daily routine looks like. And this was part of the interview I did for a college student here. Her name is Cassidy Tillett. And so she kind of just told me about her things, and I talked to other people about their schedules as well. But being in school, you usually have 12 to 18 credit hours per semester. A lot of times people have part-time to full-time jobs. Some people do internships during the academic semesters, extracurricular organizations, and then you have your family, friends, and then for other people you have people who are in relationships. And this is not even including people who are college athletes who have even less time than us. And when you bring up time, when you pair all the things that we do on a daily basis, when you pair that with time, you have the lack of time, competition with others, competition with yourself, and then just the race against time to get out of the university in the 4 years that they say it is. That equals a lot of stress. And then like I said earlier, continued stress leads to anxiety. So what does anxiety look like in college students? Anxiety in college students can be lack of sleep, continued isolation. This is when you really just like kind of be in your room, or you kind of go class, go straight back to your room, go get food, go straight back to your room, and not really talk to anybody within that walking distance unless you know them or like them or see them. Then you can potentially see a drop in grades, and then maybe just a drop in attendance overall. Like I know a lot of college students who they don't want to miss class due to being lazy. They just literally just don't like to leave their room. But these things are ways that anxiety affect us daily, like during the day, like while we actually have to be like academically inclined. And then so you ask yourself, how does anxiety affect us at night? Like how's the nightlife in college? So with the freedom that a lot of us possess when we come to college is you don't really deal with parents. You don't have to kind of deal with parents being over your shoulder, like what you're doing tonight, where you're going. So you really just have that freedom to do what you want. And with that, I mean, what do you guys like doing in your free time? I like to go party. I like to hang out with my friends, do this and the third. And a lot of times when college students like to go party, of course they drink, smoke, do drugs. And while I'm not saying this is I ain't gonna say it's a good thing, but I'm not gonna say it's necessarily a bad thing because we all need a release to a certain degree. It's very vital understanding what's the difference between you indulging in fun and then you overindulging in excessively like binge drinking or potentially having drug abuse, those type of issues, and then understanding like what that looks like in yourself is very vital, and then understanding like how that looks in those around you. So it's a lot of ways you can like cope with stress and anxiety, but in unhealthy ways that's not really productive to your lifestyle. And so this made me think, and this made me go research more healthier ways that we can actually cope and do better with our lives. And this is where I took some like polls and surveys amongst my friends, group chats that I'm in, individual interviews with people, and I found out that, I'll go into it. And then that corresponded with also the research I did of coping mechanisms. A lot of people say a lot of hobbies they do help them out, like hobbies of expression, and by expression I mean like art. Some people like to listen to music. A lot of people listen to music as their top one. They like listening to music. I know people who make music that helps them cope with stress. And then art in other ways such as painting, drawing, and then other people like dance, like just doing dance, and dance is kind of in the realm of yoga. And when you talk about dancing, you kind of think of just physical things you can do to release your stress. And that steps into one of my personal favorite, which is being like actually fully active. Like me and my close friends, we like to go work out in the gym. We try to work out every day, probably go maybe like 4 times a week. But it's really just to release stress, to have fun, to actually kick it with each other. A lot of times we don't really, that's a good time where we're never on social media like Jalen was talking about, where we're either listening to music or just having conversation amongst ourselves, and that allows us to really like debrief and really just to chill and talk while also doing something productive, and then also running around, jogging, working out with your friends. A lot of people I know like to play on the intramural teams here offered. And then another thing that helps people, like a healthy way of coping with anxiety, is just more social interaction. When it always sounds like social anxiety, you don't want to be around social people, just putting yourself in that situation around people that you actually know and trust, and having this open dialogue is a great way to really like, because a lot of times people, they know, understanding that they do have anxiety, and a lot of people, they kind of name it on like a scale from 1 to 10. Like right now my anxiety level is at a 4. Understanding that gives them a better judgment of themselves. All right, how do I want to carry myself for the rest of the day? What do I want to do? What do I not want to do? This and the third. And then also another thing with social interaction, just consumption moderation. Like it's always fun to have fun and indulge, but understanding, like I said earlier, what's good and then what's over the limit. And then a better way to just maintain this and get to this point where you can understand yourself is just being able to talk with other people, understanding what are your personal triggers of anxiety, understanding like, all right, if I do this and the third day, will this trigger my anxiety? And if it does, do I know ways to get around it? Do I know ways to understand it? And that a lot of times help people deal with their problems better. And in conclusion, anxiety is just habitual stress that stops you from living your life to the fullest. Understanding your symptoms and how you personally portray anxiety will help you find ways you deal with it in a negative fashion, and help you find ways that is more productive to your lifestyle. And now that we fully understand the monster that's under our bed, I believe it's time to face it with our best foot forward and doing this with the most productive way possible. Thank you.